The battle was already lost. Lieutenant Kale Rice knew it before the first explosion tore through the upper deck of the Vanguard sphere. He knew it when the comms dissolved into overlapping screams and static. He knew it when the stars outside the viewport disappeared behind a swarm of enemy vessels, dark and silent like predators closing in for the kill. But knowing didn't matter. He kept fighting anyway. Rice fall back. Commander Ilian's voice cracked over the comms. That's an order. Kale ducked behind a shattered console as plasma fire scorched the air above him. Negative, he replied, breath steady despite the chaos. If we fall back, they take the core. They're going to take it anyway, not while I'm still breathing. Silence followed. Not agreement. Not approval. Just the understanding that Kale Rice wasn't going to move. The corridor shook violently as another impact rocked the ship. Metal screamed. Lights flickered. Kale reloaded his rifle with practiced precision, ignoring the sting of blood running down his temple. Around him, the last of his squad lay motionless. He didn't look at them. He couldn't afford to. The enemy advanced. Tall, armored figures with elongated limbs and faceless helmets that reflected the chaos around them. Their movements were precise, coordinated, relentless. They didn't shout, didn't hesitate, didn't fear. Kale stepped out from cover and fired. One fell, then another. He moved forward, alone. High above the battlefield, beyond the visible spectrum of human sensors, something watched. The observation vessel drifted in perfect silence, cloaked in layers of distortion that bent light and energy alike. It did not belong to any known civilization. Inside, a single figure stood before a vast, curved display. She had been watching for hours. Empress Veolyra did not interfere. That was the first rule. Across countless systems, her empire extended, vast, ancient, and unseen by most of the galaxy. Where others waged war openly, her people observed. They learned. They measured. Interference was forbidden. To intervene was to alter the natural evolution of lesser civilizations. To intervene was contamination. And yet, subject designation human. Individual combat performance exceeds predicted thresholds. The AI's voice was calm, emotionless. Veolyra said nothing. Below, the human continued to fight. He was outnumbered, outgunned, wounded. Still, he advanced. Probability of survival, 0.003%. The AI continued. Veolyra's gaze remained fixed on the display. Why does he persist? She asked quietly. Analysis suggests adherence to duty, the AI replied. Psychological profile indicates high resilience and resistance to surrender behaviors. Veolyra tilted her head slightly. He knows he will die. Yes. And yet he continues. Yes. Kale staggered as another blast threw him against the wall. Pain flared through his side. Broken ribs. Maybe worse. He pushed himself up anyway. The core chamber doors loomed ahead. If they reached it, everything would end. Come on, he muttered under his breath. Just a little longer. Another enemy soldier lunged. Kale fired point blank. The rifle clicked empty. The soldier didn't stop. Kale dropped the weapon and drew his blade. Veolyra stepped closer to the display. The human was bleeding heavily now. His movements slower, less precise. Still, he fought. Empress, the AI said. Continued observation yields diminishing returns. Recommend relocation to next sector. Veolyra didn't respond. Instead, she watched as the human drove his blade into another enemy's chest. Watched as he pulled it free. Watched as he turned, staggering, to face the next wave. Alone. Something unfamiliar stirred within her. Pause observation, she said. The AI hesitated. Clarify command. Veolyra's voice sharpened. I said pause. The display froze. For the first time in centuries, Veolyra looked away from a subject before its conclusion. She closed her eyes. The rules were clear. Absolute. Unbroken for generations. Do not interfere. But the image remained in her mind. The human, standing alone, fighting a battle he could not win, and refusing to fall. Kale's vision blurred. His body was reaching its limit. He could feel it, the slowing of his reflexes, the weight in his limbs, the creeping darkness at the edges of his sight. But the enemy was still coming. Not yet, he whispered. He tightened his grip on the blade. If this was where he died, then he would make it count. Probability of subject termination imminent. Veolyra's eyes snapped open. The display resumed. The human was on one knee now, surrounded, weapons raised. Execution imminent. Veolyra took a step forward. Empress, the AI warned. Intervention would violate Directive Prime. I am aware. Consequences include. I know the consequences.
Her voice was calm.
But beneath it, something had changed. She looked at the human one last time and made her decision. Time fractured. That was the only way Kale could describe it. One moment, the enemy stood before him, weapons raised. The next, everything stopped. Not slowed.
Stopped.
The air froze. The light held still. The enemy soldiers stood like statues, their weapons suspended inches from firing. Kale blinked. What? A sound echoed through the silence.
Soft.
Measured. Footsteps. He turned and saw her. She stepped through the frozen battlefield as if it were nothing.
Tall.
Elegant. Clad in armor that seemed to shimmer between realities. Her eyes met his. And in them, he saw something he couldn't explain. You are not supposed to be here, Kale said hoarsely. A faint smile touched her lips. Neither are you, she replied. Kale stared at her. You did this? He asked, gesturing weakly at the frozen world. Yes. Why? She studied him for a moment. Because you would not stop, she said. That's not an answer. It is the only one I have. Kale tried to stand.
Failed.
She moved instantly, catching him before he hit the ground. Her touch was warm, unexpectedly so. You are dying, she said. Yeah. Kale managed a weak laugh. I figured that part out. Veolyra looked down at him. So fragile, so temporary, and yet so unyielding. I can save you, she said. Kale met her gaze. What's the catch? No catch. He frowned. There's always a catch. Veolyra hesitated. Then, you will not return to this life, she said. Silence. Kale looked past her, at the frozen battlefield, at the ship, at everything he had fought to protect. They'll be okay? He asked. Yes. You're sure? Yes. He closed his eyes for a moment, then nodded. All right, he said. Veolyra acted. The world dissolved. When Kale woke, he was no longer on the Vanguard sphere. He was somewhere else. The air was different. Cleaner. The ceiling above him curved in impossible geometry, glowing faintly with shifting patterns of light. He sat up slowly. No pain. No injuries. What? You are aboard my vessel. Kale turned. She stood nearby, watching him. You saved me, he said. Yes. Why? She didn't answer immediately. I broke my own laws to do so, she said instead. That doesn't tell me why. Veolyra stepped closer. Because you fought when there was no reason to, she said. Kale shook his head. There was a reason, he said. There's always a reason. Explain it to me. Kale thought for a moment. Because someone had to, he said simply. Veolyra was silent. Processing. You risked everything, she said. For others who may never know. Kale shrugged. That's kind of the job. Something shifted in her expression again. You are inefficient, she said. Kale laughed. Yeah, I've been told that. Days passed. Or what felt like days. Time worked differently aboard her ship. Kale learned quickly that Veolyra was not just a ruler. She was something more. Her empire existed in shadows. Watching. Measuring. Never interfering. Until him. You broke your rules for one soldier? Kale asked one day. Yes. Your people aren't going to like that. No, she agreed. And they didn't. The signal arrived without warning. A fleet. Massive.
Silent.
They've come for you, Kale said. Yes. For breaking the rules. Yes. Kale stood beside her, looking out at the approaching ships. You regret it? He asked. Veolyra considered the question, then shook her head.
No.
Kale smiled faintly.
Good, he said.
Why? Because I'd hate to think I got you in trouble for nothing. The ships closed in. Weapons powered. Stand down. A voice echoed through the vessel. Veolyra didn't move. You have violated Directive Prime, the voice continued. The human will be returned. You will submit for judgment. Kale stepped forward. Not happening, he said. Veolyra looked at him. You cannot fight them, she said. Kale cracked his knuckles. Yeah, he said. I've heard that before. And for the first time, Veolyra smiled. The battle that followed was unlike any Kale had ever known. Reality bent. Space twisted. Time fractured. But this time, he wasn't alone. They stood together. A lone human soldier. And an empress who had chosen to break everything for him. In the end, the fleet did not win.
But neither did they.
A new rule was written that day. Not in law, but in action. Sometimes, even empires must change. And sometimes, all it takes is one human who refuses to fall, and one empress who refuses to let him.